Alright guys, I'm back. I gotta tell you thank you. The last video, or the one I'm still uploading, it was kind of soul bearing, where I talked about some of the things that I carry with me, or I think about, or I worry about. And a lot of people would say, don't do that. My grandmother used to tell me, Angel, don't wear your feelings on your sleeve. And it wasn't until much later, as I got older, I understood what she meant. But that's not what I'm doing here. What I'm doing here is I'm reckoning with myself over my own beliefs. I don't know many people today that do that are not my age. My mother always taught me to question everything, challenge everything. If you don't understand, say so. Do not let fear stand in your way. Now, I didn't get rich off of that knowledge. But what I did get was a good family. I come from a broken, normal family because some people come into this world already angry. I had a child who did that. She's my oldest. And I love her very much. And I don't know. I pray for her. That's all I can do. I'm on the other side of this. So when you do things in life and you think about it later and you look back at it, this is when you start to find yourself. Now, alone time can give you that. But too much alone time, you begin to torture yourself. I always said, hell is on earth. It's in every conscience, in every being. I've seen dogs feel guilty. I've seen cats angry. I've seen cats sad. My mother's cat cried for 2 days after she passed. I don't mean howling, I just mean she mourned. We're all in this together, like it or not. We need to stop beating each other up over little differences that are totally irrelevant to our own survival. We need to stop letting the government wage a war against our intelligence, against our will. And that is what's happening. Like I said before, and I'll say it again. If you're going to dress out in public so people will look at you because you're so exotically different, then expect attention. My grandmother used to tell me that, Angel, the way you're built, girl, you better watch how you dress in public, because it's going to set how people will see you. It's going to set how people are going to perceive you. And they'll already have that idea before they ever introduce themselves. And that is the truth. That is human nature. That is how we learn to judge right what's wrong for us. Now, I'm not saying what you're wearing is wrong. I'm saying you're dressed to be looked at. And that takes away your identity. You're a piece of art. Your body's just a canvas. Go ahead. Especially when you're young. Just don't go overboard. You're going to grow old someday and your skin is not going to look like it did. Okay? Your mouth, your lips, all of that is going to change. And it's supposed to. It's supposed to. Your job is to adapt. One of the things the human species is more capable to do than anything is adapt. If we didn't, there would not be generations. There would not be ancestors. Our species would never have gotten this far. I don't consider myself a dreamer. But I do have a dream. But countries have to straighten themselves out before they could even consider. You know what our government is right at this moment? An angry, resentful parent. That's how they're behaving. Will you go to your corner till you learn your lesson? No, that is not American. That is not the American way. That is for a child. For an adult, it is not. If I am not harming anybody, and that's very hard to do, by the way. You don't know how many people I have seen with their children, and they won't look at anybody. Not because their son is dressed like a woman, but because she's dressed like a prostitute. You're not a piece of meat. Butchering your body is harmful to your health. Putting a drug in your body that stops your body from growing up is harmful to your health. That's the real truth. I don't care how science wants to flip it. The evidence is before us. It's everywhere. And it's too big to ignore. Parents, you're in a fight for your children and you don't seem to even know it. You're in a huge fight. Are you willing to abandon your children to the government that loses thousands and thousands of children a month? You want that to take over responsibility for the child you created? Do you dislike yourselves that much? Well, if you do, what are you doing to change that? Because I know at the times I dislike myself is when I beat on myself the hardest. The problem is to stop the ass whooping before you take it too far. And that humans seem to have a very hard time doing. Once they start beating up on themselves, they don't stop till they're dead. Suicide is not a sin. You know that? You want to know where I learned it? Suicide when I was 15 years old. It's not a sin. Whoever it is that's on the other side told me so. He said it's only a sin if you don't go back. If you don't try again. You'll get it right. Here I sit. And I'm 60 years old. After I killed myself and they brought me back, I was in a coma for 3 weeks. 3 lifetimes worth of life. But it was just all life I had lived. When I was in the void, I didn't face nobody. I faced me. and who I was and what I valued. I was just a kid. Those are some hard questions to put on a kid. But I fought my way back. And I woke up from that coma. And I saw what I thought was only hurting me. I saw who else it hurt. Everyone else it hurt. You cannot tell me if you harm yourself. My nephew, I didn't know him very well. Committed suicide, was it last year or the year before? I can't recall. I couldn't afford to claim his body. I didn't find out about it until he'd been gone for 3 months. But he thought nobody cared. I cared, but I couldn't help him. He was so far in the darkness, only he could find his way out. Everybody tried to give him uplifting words, but nobody talked to him. And that includes me. What I was going through, I couldn't give anybody any good advice. My head was so clouded with my own grief. Look, I'm tired of this Black Lives Matter, White Lives Matter, and such lives matter. Ask any Buddhist. I don't have a lot to gain by putting myself out there and being so vulnerable. Because I'm putting myself out there. But I'm judging myself. I'm finding what my grandma would have called reckoning. You know why? I wasn't only dead by suicide. Once. The second time I didn't know what I was doing. My medications that my psychiatrist had me on had a reaction with some other medications that another doctor put me on. And it caused an overdose. It was not an overdose, although they put me in a hospital for it, Maywood, actually, in Illinois. And I didn't even really try to kill myself. I didn't know I had taken that many pills. I didn't. But I knew something was wrong. And I went and I got help. So, even though they counted that one as a suicide, it was not actually. It was a combination of medications that I was not aware of what I was doing. And that can happen. But after that, I changed my whole perspective again, because I saw my children when I was out of my body before they brought me back. I was ready to be out. I was tired of it. I couldn't change nothing. I couldn't stop the violence in my own home. I couldn't make my children's lives better. And I just gave up. And that was what was breaking my mind. But I wasn't given a path to heal that. Instead, I was drugged. But, however, after that, like I said, my perception changed. And when it changed a lot. But it took a lot of me choosing different choices. And I had to make a lot of hard ones. And they hurt a lot of people's feelings. And I'm not going to scream and say, I don't care if I hurt their feelings. Yes, I do. I care very much that I hurt their feelings. That was not what I was trying to do. I was trying to stop a bad situation from getting so much worse. because I could see what was coming just by what was happening around me. And they call that instinct. That's why I trusted myself more than I ever trusted anybody else. And it's a good thing. I'm still here today. I'll try to update you about my brother if I hear from him and he's okay. He's had a hard time. He doesn't have any pen pals or anything like that. And for a lot of his prison time, he's been in solitary. I think every time they go into lockdown, he goes into solitary. And it's really hard on him. You know, by the second or third week, his little mind is beating itself to death. And over his conflicts with his conscience. The only ones who don't have a conscience are those who can kill without regard. If I have to hunt a deer, or my husband, and I have to help my husband do it, as I'm an equal partner, then I'm not taking that life because of anger. I'm not taking that life because I want to harm it in some way. I have no resentment towards that deer. But, like that deer has to eat. I'm an omnivore. So do I. And without meat, my brain dies. And I need my brain. You know? It's how I figure out how to survive. All you kids out there that are so lost, you got so much ahead of you. But you gotta ask yourself if you're making it worse. Right now your future is kind of shaky. I agreed. Because your ideals are still growing. And that's how it's supposed to be. That's how we get advancement. Each generation teaches what they know, and then the next generation expands that knowledge and adds to it. It's not just one person's knowledge that makes a human being. It's a collective. And you ain't got to sit down and meditate. You ain't got to have some harmonic balance thingy going. That's all malarkey. It really is. It's a moneymaker. Charlatan kind of thing. Because it's all about what you think about yourself anyway. And if you dislike yourself so much that you have to change everything and even change your body physically, that's how self-hate. In the old days, that's what they called it. Why do you hate yourself that much? You can't tell me you have not done a good thing in your life. I've known some of the biggest monsters I could ever dream of knowing. And I stood toe-to-toe and nose-to-nose with them. And I'll tell you right now, they're in every one of us. That is your instinct for survival. We're still trying to use it in the ways that we did when we were hunter-gatherers, and it does not work there. Because we are not that anymore. We are a new evolution of people. And if Americans and their immigrants are strong enough to take a hold of this country and make it as great as it can be, it's going to take us all working together. And we can't do that divided. can't. Now, everybody knows how I feel about Cartel Kamala. Don't have anything fond to say of this woman. Doesn't mean she doesn't have good in her. I just haven't seen it yet. She's too busy masquerading. So, when you're always hiding behind the mask, you can never be yourself. People had to accept me for who I was. And I wasn't rude to them to make them do it. I said hello. I was polite. I smiled. I was friendly. And people like that. Some good, some bad. Bad ones didn't manage to stay around long because I didn't. I was never afraid to move beyond a bad influence on my own life. And so were my children. I was having such a hard time accepting things sometimes. And my children, oh my goodness, my heart still breaks when I think about it. I hope I have apologized already. If I haven't, I am so sorry. I truly am. But you guys have taught me how to be a better person. Because you knew a better way than I did. That's why you're so precious. I get to take that new knowledge with me. So when I come back, I'll have something useful instead of being angry. I don't know if I was born angry, but I sure got angry young. And you know what? I'm not so angry anymore. You know why? Because those people that hurt me, I happen to love. And even though they hurt me, I knew they loved me. Now, I didn't put myself in harm's way with them by letting them beat on me or any of that. You wanted to be around me, you had to be a civil, decent human being, or I would show you God. That was where I had come to stand with people in my family and some of their deceptive ways. So, but it's all the human existence. It's our intelligence growing. But if you are having horrible thoughts, you know what? Be very careful which drugs you allow your doctors to put you on. Because some of them can make you do things you would never do. Like in my case. I learned when I was 15. It was a genuine accident. I did not try to do it. But because I already had a history and was successful, even though I was resurrected, I was resuscitated, not resurrected. Well, kind of same thing. I still achieved my goal. The second time, I went for help because I knew something was wrong. And it wasn't until I was at the ER that they told me how much of different medications I had in my stomach. It showed up in a blood test or something. And my psychiatrist at the hospital, they put me in for 21 days. And I held my own against some really wackos. But they didn't hold me the whole 21 days. After talking to the psychiatrist 3 times, he released me. He said, "You don't belong in here, you're not crazy." I said, "What?" He said, "Well, your husband keeps saying to me you're crazy, but I don't hear crazy coming out your mouth. You don't think you're God. You don't think you're anything. You're angry. And with the way your husband's behaving, I understand why." He said, "But I don't do marriage counseling." And he said this right in front of my husband. And he told me he believed me. I had not tried to kill myself. It was the medications. I guess lithium, Valium, and Xanax. Not Xanax, Zantac, excuse me. That combination will make you hallucinate like crazy. So I learned real quick not to trust them with the medications, any doctors. My doctors did not talk to each other. I didn't go to them. I might go in an emergency, but I'm kind of old school. I already got used as a guinea pig in my younger years. I developed some kind of infection. My son has it still. I don't know if it ever went away, but they said my white blood count was always excessively high, and they couldn't figure out why. They tested me for lupus and all kinds of things. No answers. So it may still be that way, I don't know. And then again, it may not. But I know it hasn't affected my life enough to stop me from living it. Because what I learned on the other side as a teenager changed my course. And then an accident of similar fate changed my course again. And so the things that finally hit us hard enough to make us change does make us change. And the thing that can hit our government hard enough is everyone together. Simple. So simple it'll never happen. You know, the simplest answer is usually the right answer. But the right answer is rarely applied. So, alright guys. American Granny out again. You don't know what I went through. I made 2 videos already and deleted them both. Alright guys. Love y'all.